A company called Gatha. Gatha is a Hindi word which means story. So basically, we are telling story about Indian craft. We are documenting craft all over the India and putting them on online. But today we are talking about post-digital materiality, which is a really big word. And I thought, why not we can connect two things. One is a material, another one is a information. Because in digital era, we also call it the era of the information. So I would like to start my presentation with the pre-digital material era, where we used to store information through different medium. Then we come to digital era. Then I'll show you what we are doing in India and how we are keeping those interesting story on internet. So this is the interesting image which comes from the central part of the India called Bhimbetka, which is like almost like 20,000-year-old paintings. So this is an expression of art, but when you look at into a detail, you can also read this image, because this image also contains lots of information, how they are hunting, the kind of animals they have, their body language, their arms and everything. So this is not only a painting, but it's also contains lots of interesting information. That's another example of the information, where you can see there's a sculpture, and there's also a few thousand-year-old sculpture, and there's a Varaha, which is a form of Lord Vishnu. And there was a story when the earth was in trouble, he came and then like the earth was in a sea, and then on his nose he put the earth and he come out. But the interesting thing is, in these stories, you can see the form of the earth. The earth is a sphere, and this sculpture is a few thousand-year-old. So that time they know the earth is a sphere, but in our literature we are saying maybe there are a couple of philosophers or scientists who discover the earth is a sphere. But there's an interesting story, but which also contain information. Then when we civilized slowly, we also started writing our thoughts or our information on different medium. So this is a 2,500-year-old Sanskrit written on stone, and it exists even today. So this information is 2,000-year-old, which is also there. If you know Sanskrit, we can read this information. Then after some time, in the Bronze Age, we were like master in material, like in terms of metal or manuscripts. Then we started writing on metal. So this is a manuscript which is a 1,500-year-old and even exists today. So this hold the secret knowledge of the Vedic era. Then after some time, you can say the 600 or 1,000-year-old, then paper came to our knowledge through Chinese or some other countries. Then we started writing on the paper. So the age of the paper is, you can say, 1,000-year-old if you are preserving properly, and you can read this information even today. So this is the story of Lord Mahavira, which is a religion in India called Jainism. And then after some time, we started printing on the paper, which is, you can say, photograph. So this is the photograph of Gandhiji, which is almost, you can say, 75 or 80-year photograph. If you are preserving this photograph properly, you can also look at the images and you can read the lifestyle and everything about that movement. There is a photograph of witness of that movement, basically. And when we come to digital era, so this is the floppy disk, the 20 years old, and this is inaccessible now. If I have a data in a floppy disk, I have to go and find a slot where I can put that floppy disk. So my information is gone. If I have a CD or DVD, the one scratch, then all the information will be gone. So that's a problem with the digital era. So in digital era, we need lots of compatible devices to access the information. Like we are sitting here, there are lots of information flowing around us, but I need a proper device through which I can read those information. Not only devices, software. If I have a file in, like, let's say, a Photoshop CS5 file, and you have a CS4 file, you cannot read my file because the software is not compatible to that device. So somehow digital information also restrict our expression, our presentation. If I have to mail you, I have only 6 fonts in my drop-down box. I have a few smileys through which I can express my emotions. But in the physical world, the thing is very different. If you have a pen and paper, then you can represent your information through a different expression or your style, basically. So in analog world, to access information, you just need to open your senses. If you have a paintings in the front of you, or if you have a sculpture or a book, you can just look at it properly and you can get the information. But there is another interesting advantage with the digital world. The advantage is the mass impact. Like in India, there are almost 930 million mobile phones and 120 active internet users. So everybody is generating information. If you have a mobile phone or a camera or a laptop, you can just click a photograph and you can share to a public, and it will reach suddenly to thousands of people. So that's the advantage of the digital world. So let me give you an interesting example. Like this is the graph where you can see I just plotted the age of the information and the reach. So when you see the stone, so maybe the stone will last like for the 1,000 years, maybe will not be there, but the stone will be there. And when you see the digital information, the reach of the information is really high, but the life of the information is very short. So maybe in a couple of hours or month or week, everything will be gone. Look at, like for example, WikiLink. If you are searching today on the WikiLink pages, you won't find anything on the internet because that information is almost gone. So you will not get anything. So that's an interesting story, like how I'm comparing in physical written information and the digital information. Because we are working in a craft, so this is a very interesting observation which I would like to tell you. There is a very famous writer called Alvin Toffler, and he wrote a book about 3 waves, where he is talking about how our society becomes civilized. They are saying the first wave was the agriculture wave, where everybody was talking about agriculture. Then suddenly the time changed and the industrial age came. Then everybody was talking about the industry, and people are doing lots of industrial work and the industrial production and so many things. And then the third wave came, that was the information age, where the communication is a most important thing than anything. But in India, there is a very interesting thing. In India, you can see the jump of the one wave. So there are agriculture wave, but there is no industrial wave, but you will find the information age. The example, if you'll go to the interior area of the villages, there is no electricity, but there is a mobile phone. So you can see the jump. The people don't have a machines or power or anything, but they are using mobile phone. They are listening songs on their mobile phone, or they are clicking photographs. So these are the changes in happening, especially in the village area. But there is advantage also, because in India, the industries were not very powerful in the village area, so all the old practices still exist. The people are doing those 1,000-year practices even till today. They are making you can say they're weaving on the loom, and carving on the stones. So there are 100 types of craft which still exist in the rural India. Let me give you an interesting example actually. So I showed you that manuscript which was like a 1,500 old, and people used to write on the palm leaf, and they used to preserve their knowledge on the palm leaf, and then they fold it and keep it back. So in India there are lots of villages, they do these kinds of carving which you can see. So now the way of information is changed. Now they are definitely not writing those Vedic knowledges, but they are writing the stories. So this is the way of which you can see actually. I can just give it to you. And approximately in India, there are 50 million full-time artisan and 200 million part-time artisan who are involved into different kinds of craft and the craft practices. The part-time, full-time, the difference is the full-time people their main livelihood is craftsmanship, but the part-time is they are doing the agriculture, but when there is no crop, they are doing these kinds of handmade things. And the interesting thing is these practices is not only the livelihood, but is also they also it also contain a knowledge about the old tradition practices, and there are lots of interesting science also behind these practices, like how they are using a local material to preserve their products, how they are utilizing nearby manpower, or you you can say, especially the material, I think. But because of this is the change is happening in India. Suddenly everybody is moving towards a city. So people feel that whatever they are doing is not a respectable job. If they are doing a craftsmanship, they were cutting a wood or whatever, they feel it's not a right thing. We have to go and work in an urban area where we feel the life is a better. But when they reach in urban area, then the life is not actually because whatever media is showing on your TV is a different, and what you live is a completely different thing. And we also feel we should also learn from a European country, because not only Europe but developed countries, where now people realizing that whatever the old practices was, there was a very interesting thing, and they are trying to revive those practices again. But in India, we already have those old practices, but we are slowly losing because of the pressure of the media. So we thought what we can do so the people feel that whatever they are doing is not a ugly work or not a so there are three things which we figure out through which we can actually showcase those artisans on an internet platform or basically internet platform. There are, the interesting thing is like generating awareness. So if you know how they are making these products, what is the story behind the kind of material they are using, then the value of the product is suddenly different. And the second thing is giving them recognition. If they feel, okay, I am an artisan, we have, see, there is a problem with our society also sometimes. We have a designation for everybody. If I am a doctor, I'll write a DR. If I'm an engineer, I have a designation. But there is no designation for artisans. They are like always in the dark. Somebody is making an interesting product in the village area. The buyer will come, he will buy his product, he will multiply by 3-4 times and then will sell his product in the market. But at the end of the day, the person who is making will not get anything. So he is still living in the same condition. So we thought that giving them a recognition is a very important thing, because if they feel whatever they are doing is an interesting thing and people are respecting their work, they will continue their practice and their kids will also do the same thing again. And the third thing is the sales, because sales is an important thing. If you are not able to sell your product, it will be difficult for you to survive. So the sales we feel is a very important thing in the handicraft industry, because without sales, like, it will be very difficult to survive. And so these are the 3 points which we feel is but the interesting thing is, because the craft is all about like material, like how you are shaping your material, how you are presenting your material. It involves so many senses while you are making your craft or while you are also using your craft. Like I showed you this, the manuscript or the palm leaf. Like after touching, you realize how much time or effort they have put, like, to make those products. And this is not a made by pen. This is a carving thing. They use a very fine needle to carve on the palm leaf, and then they fill with the ink. So if you are washing this thing, it will not move out. So that's an interesting thing. Yeah. So we always discuss that when we are presenting these interesting information, which is more tactile or more smell based or more multi-sensory, how we can present these information on internet. So is it possible to present all this thing? Because like I'm also interaction designer, so whenever I read a blog, people are talking about so many things like a touch sensor and the smell sensor, and you can create ambience where you can experience. I think it's possible, but is it possible to create a really such kind of environment in your room? If you're watching a movie, I think it's possible, but if yes, then think again, because look at this image. This is a festival in India called Holi. Can we create this kind of environment in a room? I don't think it's possible, because like there are thousands of colors, millions of smell, everybody is touching each other, the water is flowing on you, and people are singing together. So I think it's impossible to experience these things. You have to go there, you have to be part of this family. So I think another option is a teleportation, where you can transport your body to some other location and you can experience and come back as attachment. Yeah, but there is an interesting thing which we always feel is the technical term called synesthesia. It's called cross-sensory also. I think the advertisement people are master in this. They click a kind of images which create a desire to buy a product or eat ice cream or chocolate or whatever. So definitely we can provoke our senses or motivate people by looking those images to go and experience those interesting practices or craft or maybe culture. Yeah, so in like in Gatha, we are basically creating an interesting platform where we are putting all the interesting data on where people can go and read. It's free, and we are going to launch in a couple of months. It's a free where you can read about the interesting stories and the processes and the cluster and the history, and we're also mapping artisan on map. So you will know that this artisan is living in this village and he is making this kind of product. And then later we are also going to connect those specific artisan to our mobile platform, through a mobile platform to our internet like e-commerce store where he can directly trade or he can also sell his product through that online platform. So I'll show you that online platform, how it's look and how it's gonna work. So this is the portal which I was talking about where we are doing craft documentation in different places across the India. So we have covered so far 3 states in India, and we have done almost like 165 craft documentation. And so this is the home page where you can see, so you can explore craft on the basis of 4 different categories. First one is called material. So there are different kinds of material for different kinds of crafts, and there are techniques, and there are the name of the craft. There are lots of craft which are popular on the basis of their name. And then there are states. State is basically a region in India. So for example, if you are talking about, let's say block printing, so maybe on the material will be fabric like a silk or cotton or maybe some other wool material. The technique will be a block printing or resist dyeing or different kinds of technique. The craft name be a different name, like for example there are couple of names. For example, Bagh is a popular in India, or maybe Ajrak is a popular name in India. So those are the name of the specific craft and the state where the craft belong. So maybe it may be from Madhya Pradesh or Jammu and Kashmir or Gujarat or Maharashtra or Odisha or a different state. So on the home page, for example, I'll show you on the basis of state. So let's start talking about Madhya Pradesh, which is a central part of the India. So when you click on Madhya Pradesh, so it will jump and it will show you on the map like all the cluster where people are doing different kinds of craft in India. So this is the list of the craft which you can explore from here, and these are the cluster where people are actually doing a very intense craft related work. And here you can read about little bit on the right side about the state. Okay, what is the Madhya Pradesh, the kind of population, the culture and rituals and everything. And there is an interesting thing on the bottom which you can't see on the screen. This is the timeline. So the timeline is basically a concept of the how old is the cluster, because in India history makes really big difference. So for example, when you are scrolling this timeline and you're going in the past, the cluster are appearing and disappearing, which is giving you idea about how old is the cluster. So some cluster are like 200-year-old, 500-year-old, 1,000-year-old. So you'll get the idea about how old is the cluster. Suppose you feel, okay, I want to know more about weaving. Weaving is a very popular craft in India. And you want to know about, there's a Maheshwar is a cluster in India, which is like a 400-500-year-old cluster. And there are almost few thousand people who do just weaving. And they make really beautiful saris and scarf and different kinds of things by using silk, cotton and zari, which is a gold color thread. So you suppose you want to go to Maheshwar, you want to know about Maheshwar, you can just go click on here or maybe directly on the map. And when you click on Maheshwar, so it will jump onto the Maheshwar page. So right now we are onto very specific Maheshwar, and like the craft, the weaving, and the name of the cluster is a Maheshwar. And we are into section of the craft, where under the craft section you can read about the uses of the craft and the significance, the story and myth, the history and influence, the kind of design they are making, and what kind of challenge they are facing. And there is another section called processes. When you click on process, that will give you very detailed about information about the process, like what kind of raw material they are using, the kind of waste they are generating, the tools and technologies, ritual, and the detailed information about process. And you can click on, and then you can click on image, and you can also explore toward different images. So the images will give you idea about the actual process, the step by step. And there is a section called cluster. So when you click on in cluster, so it will jump to a Maheshwar city, and you can read about the history about the city or village, and then the geography, and there is a, one second, and there are some, you can see these icons. So these are showing you basic information about like the district, the state, the population, the kind of language they speak, the best time to visit, how you can reach there. You can also get direction through Google. And then you need a local transport, yes or no. You can see here, it's a small village, you can walk. And then what kind of food you can eat over there and where you can stay. So these are the basic information whenever you're traveling to some place you need. So these are the, so through which you can actually plan your trip. And then under the cluster, there's a history section. It will give you information about the history and the geography, then the environment of the cluster, the infrastructure, and then the architecture, and then the kind of culture they have, and the kind of people are living there, and why these are famous. So for example, the Maheshwar is famous for its ghats, which is a step next to river, and it's also famous for their temples, and of course weaving, and the river Narmada. So yeah, and then when you click on the craftsman section, so it will jump on the map, and it will show you all the craftsmen who are working in a Maheshwar. So this is the map, and these are the actual places or the houses where they are actually working. So you can click on a specific image, and when you click on images, it will give you basic information about the craftsman. His name is Yusuf Ansari, his experience is 15 years, and he is speaking a language. And then next we are going to connect this page with the shop page where you can buy a specific craft which is coming from a Yusuf Ansari. So this is like a Facebook for artisan. Yeah, and 1 second. Yes, and there is a gallery section where you can click on a gallery, and there are lots of images. Now there is an interesting thing in the gallery. We realize like how we are tagging on the internet, especially we are tagging through a square. Like if I have to tag a Facebook, somebody's photo on a Facebook, I'll put up a square and I can tag this is the Falana person. But in the craft, we realize you cannot tag through a square because there are lots of interesting motifs or the design which is, you can say, random. So we have developed a very simple tool where if you want to tag a photo, you can just go and you can draw on the images. So if you feel that there is a specific motif or a flower's name, let's say rose, or you want to draw a rose on the specific, on the photograph that you can draw, and then you can tag the name, for example, let's say XYZ, and then done. And then somebody will search, if are searching for a specific kind of name or motif, the Google will show them or will direct them on this page, and they can realize, they can see the photograph and they can understand that. And the interesting thing is in this portal, it's an open source or crowdsourcing kind of platform where if somebody feels they have a better information about specific craft, you can go and click on the edit button where you can edit the data. It will go to our moderator team, they will validate the data, and if they'll approve, the data will come on. It's like a wiki, everybody know Wikipedia. So I think special. Yes, I think that's all.